We have to work together as a team to make sure that all businesses in Illinois, but especially businesses that are small, that can grow to great heights, get a fair shake when it comes to state contracts and purchasing and procurement. There are all kinds of rules. We have to make sure we abide by all of those rules. That's the law. But we want to make sure that today, folks that are here, and we want to thank everyone for coming, that we know what the procedures are, what the opportunities are, and that we work together to expand opportunity for our diverse businesses all across Illinois. Our black-owned businesses, our minority-owned businesses in the Hispanic community, the Asian community. Definitely we want to help our women-owned businesses. Everybody. Everybody's in and nobody's left out as far as I'm concerned. We've got to make sure that we have these regular gatherings. This is not the only time we're going to be talking about the issue of purchase of the state and procurement by the state. We want to spread the word, spread the gospel. The word gospel means good news. And what we have to do is get the word out all across our state. In this area in particular, the metropolitan area of Chicago, our largest metropolitan region in the state, we want to make sure that everybody knows the opportunities that they can have for their business to get a contract and to exercise that contract and make sure that it's done properly for the taxpayers. But at the same time, it's an opportunity for a business to grow and get new customers, get new training and opportunity and learning that can help you expand your business for years to come. I want to make sure that small business means big business in Illinois. We have to understand that really the job creation that occurs in our state is almost always by smaller businesses. And that's why the state purchasing is so important, that we want to, when we have to get goods and services for the people of Illinois, for the various departments, that we do it in a proper way, but we also do it in a way that includes everyone in Illinois, the 13 million people of our state and all the businesses of our state. I don't want anyone feeling that they're left out.
What we want to do is, first of all, tell you who we are and what we do. Some of you already know that. Central Management Services is a nerve center agency for the state of Illinois, but when we handle a bunch of different things. I'm going to let my deputy directors that represent each of the bureaus, but I'll go through it really quickly. We handle benefits for all state employees under the governor. We handle financial and administrative services in some areas. We manage the IT infrastructure of the state of Illinois. We manage labor relations, personnel rules, and so forth for about 50,000 employees. We do property management of over 70 million square feet of state-owned and leased space. And we also have a Bureau of Strategic Sourcing, which was formerly our Strategic Sourcing and Procurement. We still, although the procurement process itself does not reside at CMS anymore, but we're the funnel for all state agencies to get their procurement needs to go through that actual process. And last but not least, our Business Enterprise Program, and that is a program that is designed to certify minority and women-owned businesses, as well as businesses owned by people with disabilities, to certify them so that they can participate on procurement opportunities with the state. So we'll get into more of that, a little bit more detail when the deputy directors get a chance to speak, but I just want to kind of give you a picture of, for those that don't know, we do a lot. We do a lot of things for the state. And so with doing a lot, we also know that there are areas that we can focus on to do a better job. So my vision, what is it that I want to do coming into CMS? What was on my mind when the governor sat me down and talked to me about this opportunity? And besides the normal things that you want to do as a director of a state agency, you want to save money, you want to be more efficient, you want to make sure that you are managing whatever process that delivers goods and services to the constituents, as well as other state agencies, and carry out the governor's initiatives. You know, the number one thing I thought that would help was to create a stronger relationship, partnerships with the business community. Well, I've heard a lot of things. I've been in state government now going on 6 years, but I've heard a lot of things both when I was at CMS and procurement and when I went to the Governor's Office of Management and Budget to do the budget. And there's a lot of things that you hear. You hear people feeling like they are kind of blocked out of the procurement process. You hear people saying that they feel that they don't have access to talk to people about ideas that they think would be better for the state, that are, deliver the same service that the state is delivering now, but at a lower cost. Some people have an idea about a better way to build a mousetrap, and they can't bring it in to talk to us about it. And so that's important for us to know, especially in trying fiscal times. We have to think outside the box sometimes. We have to find a new way to do things. And it's a normal thought that government in general is always behind the times, right? We're always trying to catch up to the best business practices. And so we've heard that a lot. So the way I view CMS is the first thing we have to do is to re-engage business, right? All businesses, large and small, but also make sure that they know what it is we need. Make sure they know how state government runs so that when they're thinking about a better way to do something, they can think about better ways, their better processes, and how to tailor those processes to the state, right? Because we have laws, we have rules that we have to operate by, and sometimes business doesn't know that. Sometimes business says, why are you doing it this way? It'll cost more money when you should do it that way. Well, we may have a legal situation that demands that we do it one way, but maybe if you knew that, you could come up with a process that satisfies our legal need, right, but gets us what we want at a better price in a more efficient way. So again, partnering with the business community is what we're going to focus on, the focus of this summit. It's the focus of our agency because we all want to do our jobs better. These people here are committed to doing their jobs better. So partnering with you all, we think that we can put our heads together and come up with some good ideas. So what's happened already? There's already been some legislation that affects our interaction with the business community, and some of you may or may not know them. Some of them are people have heard about. Have been a lot, there's been a lot more fanfare about them, but some of you may not know. So I want to go through some of that really quickly. Senate Bill 51, some of you may be familiar with it, but this is legislation related to procurement. This is the actual legislation that took procurement out of CMS and put it under the Executive Ethics Commission. The idea there was to create a more independent procurement process and a process that was transparent for people to see. So the idea was a very good one. What we're working on now is implementation. We work closely with the Executive Ethics Commission to figure the best way to implement some of that new legislation, and some of it we have already figured out. The EC has some of it all figured out, but there are areas that we're still working with them to hopefully deliver some things better. I'm sure some of you may have heard about this particular legislation with regard to communication between state agencies and the private sector or people that are bidding on contracts. And so we want to be able to make good recommendations to lawmakers, not to change because we all believe in the reform, but maybe some tweaks that would maybe help make that legislation stronger and better for business and better for the state. Senate Bill 3249, that is legislation that talks about capital grants having what we call participation goals. The Business Enterprise Program, that when it certifies minorities and women-owned businesses and businesses owned by people with disabilities, what they're certifying them for is to participate on contracts, because we look at contracts now. Every contract that the state is going to enter into, we look at those contracts to see what the participation goal should be on that contract. Now, I want to make sure that people understand what that is, because that's kind of the equivalent to the MBE, WBE process that most of you may already know. It's the state's equivalent. But that particular program, we put together participation goals on contracts that are normally for goods and services. Well, 3249 now has goals, participation goals, on capital grants, which is a very good thing. It opens up, again, an area that was not normally subject to participation goals, and now it's opened up a brand new market in terms of having diverse businesses participate on capital grants. And there's legislation now to make sure that that happens, so it's very good legislation. We're excited about it. We are working with DCEO, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, as well as the Capital Development Board, on a process that will make sure that it, again, we want to make it as seamless as possible for business so that we don't slow things down. But again, this legislation is really good legislation. Senate Bill 1270, this is legislation that provides for veteran-owned businesses, business set-aside. So now what we also, as the governor, as you can tell, the governor is passionate about our veterans, but we have businesses now that are owned by veterans that we want to make sure they're participating in state contracting opportunities. And this legislation, again, is stuff that is being managed or administered out of CMS, and we're very happy about it. My Chief Operating Officer, Tasha Cruzat, who works for me and is very good, she's also a veteran. And so this is some stuff that is very close to, we actually have quite a few veterans that work for us. So this is stuff that's very close to our heart. House Bill 3186, which was small business set-aside legislation, and I just went to a hearing that, to talk about that, thank you, talk about that legislation. Representative Ford invited me, but this is great legislation for small businesses in the state, because what it says is that 10% of all of our spend, right, should be with small businesses. Everybody agrees that small businesses are the economic engine for this country as well as the state, and now the state has, the state has legislation that makes sure that we're looking at that in the procurement process and making sure those businesses are able to participate. So again, these are really this is legislation that is already passed, and some of you may not know about it, but these things help us in terms of dealing with all of you and broadening the opportunities that you all will have to do business with the state. But going forward, we're still looking, there's always more legislation that can be passed, right? There's a lot more things that can be done that will help folks participate and have a chance at a state contract. One of the things that we're looking at is a mentor protege program. We have something like that that exists at another state agency, I believe Department of Transportation, but we want to have something for our general contractors, or I shouldn't say general contractors, thank you, our general contractors, but people that do general services and supply general goods to the state. We want to work with the business community to put together a program that works, where we allow prime vendors, large companies, an opportunity, or we set up a forum where they can work with small vendors that they choose, right? And they can help develop that small vendor, have a real partnership, and hopefully build capacity with that smaller vendor. Again, our real purpose is not only to do business with the state, but we want there to be more business being done in Illinois, period. And we want diverse businesses to be able to benefit from that. We also know that the BEP Act, the Business Enterprise Program Act, the act that actually set up our Bureau of the Business Enterprise Program, is sunsetting next year. And so one of the things we're working on, and we really want to get feedback from the business community about is how do we make it stronger? How do we work towards our goal of expanding the amount of contracts that participation goals should be on? Right now, I think last year was $4 billion. That was the pool that was subject to BEP goals. We want to double that. If possible, we want to triple that. The point is we want to increase that pool because that increases the opportunity for diverse businesses to do business with the state. So there's strategy needed, but there's also input needed from the business world. Again, we work in the public sector, and we really welcome the private sector to talk to us about what's going on. So that's just kind of a wrap-up of legislation that's passed, legislation that we're looking at. We're also, again, we are working on if it needs to be other legislation to help us with employment, because our agency deals with hiring statewide in terms of testing. So there are a lot of things that we want to work closely with the business community and with lawmakers to do. So speaking of to do, what are we doing? What is CMS doing right now that's different from what CMS might have been doing in the past? First and foremost, like I said, I want to make sure that this agency reconnects with the business community, but how we do that is going to be is a question that a lot of folks are going to ask us. And our first thing that we want to do is focus on public-private partnerships, and we really want to have a focused outreach, right? We want to make sure in areas that we really believe, there might be some business practices that other states are using, or maybe even cities outside of this state are using, and that are really kind of recognized, I guess you would say, state-of-the-art business practice. We want to focus on finding out what those practices are, and we want to initiate them here in Illinois. We can do that on our own, but it'll take longer. So what we really want to do is focus on certain industries and certain types of business models, and then ask for help on how to deliver those particular services or goods to the state of Illinois. So again, focused outreach for public and private partnerships. We've also started what we call the vendor payment program. The vendor payment program is a program that started when I was in the Governor's Office of Management and Budget. It has moved over to CMS with myself, and basically it was a program born out of the thought that if you get a contract with the state of Illinois, that's great, right? Most of you, you feel like you've won, but then you have to wait 8 or 9 months to get paid. So that really changes the playing field, all right? Because now you have to plan on delivering a good or a service and then possibly waiting, 8 or 9 months to be paid. And most businesses, I'm going to assume, that's a very difficult task, big or small. So the idea of the vendor payment program was to set up a form where a business that has a voucher or an invoice that they're waiting on from the state of Illinois, where they could sell that voucher or an invoice to an investor or a bank or whatever, or whomever is participating in the program at the time, and receive 100% of the value of that voucher. Now, this particular program, when I started it at GOMB, you all may have already known that the state has a backlog of bills that we're trying to pay, and we're working feverishly to do it. But about a year or so ago, I'm reading Cranes, on my way to work, and I don't believe it was the front page. It might have been after I opened the pages, but I saw a woman who I worked with at the Chicago Park District. And this woman, her name is Nate, she quit the Chicago Park District to start True Star, I think it's like an urban newspaper. And she quit to start that because she worked with kids all the time. She wanted to really do this. It's like kind of a journalism program that she had. And it was a great idea. Everyone loved Nate for it, and we wished her the best. And lo and behold, I'm reading the paper, and she's a person waiting on a check from the state of Illinois. And I read through the article because I knew the woman, and I was like, oh, that's Nate in the paper. And I thought it was a good thing. And then I read the article. It was a bad thing. 28% of her voucher was going to a factoring company. So I knew that Nate was working on a shoestring budget because I know when she left, she told me that she's the only person that would leave a park district job to get a job that paid even less. And so to take 30% out of her coffers because the state of Illinois is slow to pay its bills is not a good thing. So we went to work, and we came up with this vendor payment program, and it's been a long time coming. But the idea is that if you're eligible, and again, there are only certain types of invoices that are eligible, we want to get some working capital in the hands of our vendors, and to stop anyone from going out of business, not being able to pay their staff, all of these things. The governor wants us to work hard until we can come up with maybe a more permanent solution, whether it be borrowing or something else. We want to work on it we want to do the best we can now. So if you all get a chance, any of you that are vendors that are waiting on checks, which I'm sure, because they're everywhere. Even when I'm at the movie theater, there's always somebody waiting on a check from the state. So go to our website. It's cms.illinois.gov. And we have a section under doing business with the state, and it'll say vendor payment program. So please look, give a call. The two gentlemen that are actually administering that for me are Jacob Stuckey and Don Lynch. They're here today. I can't see anybody, but I know they're there because neither one of them has hair just like I do. So you'll be able to see the shine. You'll find them. But again, they're very committed. They worked really hard to make this program doable. So please take a look at our website. The gentleman will be around our booths outside later, but ask questions about it if you have vouchers that you're waiting on. So that's the vendor payment program. We have our focused outreach. Then we also want to make sure that we have procurement trainings and workshops. I can't emphasize enough how important it is for people to know how to bid, to know when to bid. So we want you to get registered, number one, on our bulletin, right? So that you're receiving emails letting you know procurement opportunities as they come out. But also, we want to get you, if you're a diverse business, we want to get you registered or certified with the Business Enterprise Program. That's very important. You have additional opportunities if you are a certified BEP vendor. You get to participate on other contracts where maybe you don't win as the prime, but that whoever did win as the prime still has to partner with diverse businesses, and a certain percentage of that contract needs to go to diverse businesses. So it's very important if you are a diverse vendor that you get certified with the Business Enterprise Program. But they're going to also, in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see on our website, we're going to populate the calendars there with a whole bunch of dates that there'll be workshops. There'll be some stuff that is tailored more for a certain industry. We want to really deal with, again, IT, and that's the first one that comes to mind because, IT means a lot of different things. But the idea is we want to train you all to have you prepared when the opportunities arise. So you have to participate. I know a lot of people say, well, we go to these things, but nothing really happens. The only thing I can guarantee you is that we're going to make sure that there are more opportunities. You have to make sure that you are prepared when the opportunity arises. So we want to help you do that. Us setting up those trainings and those workshops, we're dedicated to doing that. We partner with other state agencies such as DCEO, IDOT, CDB, again. Working with those folks has been great. All of us seem to be friends. We know each other for a lot, and we're all kind of fighting the same kind of fight. So please, as you check on all of our websites, please attend the workshops and the trainings. They'll be valuable. The next thing that I really want to make sure everyone knows that we're doing is setting BEP goals. There have been contracts that have been awarded in the past that had no BEP or any participation goals on them. We're looking at those contracts again. Without really trying to criticize any predecessors of mine or of any of the current state agency directors, what we know is that the BEP, the program itself, it actually has 1,700 vendors in the program. And there are a wide variety of different industries that these vendors are part of. And it's almost hard for me to believe that there's almost any industry in the state of Illinois that we don't have a vendor in our program that they couldn't meet the need. And so we want to reevaluate that. We have legislation that created the Business Enterprise Program. So that means we have the support of lawmakers in terms of making sure that these goals are being met. And so, we want to make sure goals are being met, but we want to make sure that enough contracts have goals on them. So we are looking at all contracts in the past that have not had participation goals because we want to reevaluate. We have a new Business Enterprise Program Advisory Council, and that is made up of a bunch of diverse business leaders, and they're serious folks. They take this stuff to heart. I think that's why the governor appointed them. But we want to be able to answer to them that we've looked at everything. We also want to make sure that the goals that have been set are being met. We want to make sure that we're doing follow-up. What we hear a lot from vendors that are in our program, the BEP program, they say, well, I'm part of a contract. I'm the subcontractor, and I was on the utilization plan, and they said I was supposed to get 20% of the work. That was 3 years ago. I haven't done any work yet. We hear that all the time. Don't want to hear that all the time. Don't want to hear that at all. But it's up to us to enforce and make sure that everyone knows that if people aren't meeting their goals, we're gonna call them. We're gonna check in on them. We're gonna have them come to our Business Enterprise Program Advisory Council meeting. Tell it to the Advisory Council why you can't make the goal. Tell us that there are no vendors that can satisfy your need. Because first off, I'll tell you right now, we're not gonna believe it. You're gonna have to prove to us that that's the case. But the point I'm making here is we're taking the goals serious. We want you all to take the goals serious. It's what the legislation states that we should be doing, so we're following the law, and it's the right thing to do. Thank you. So, last but not least, in terms of big things that we're implementing is employment. We recognize that we do have a fiscal crisis on our hands at the state of Illinois, but we still do some hiring. And again, CMS is very good in terms of kind of administering all these tests. But one of the things that we've heard in the past, and I've heard this specifically, is that there are barriers, right? Maybe not tangible barriers, but these barriers that keep people from feeling comfortable about coming in and testing for a job. Sometimes the barriers aren't necessarily related to race or gender. Some of it is geographic, right? Some of it is, if we're doing most of our testing only in Chicago or Springfield, what about people that live in Macomb, or people that live in the East St. Louis area, or Peoria, or Rockford, or Decatur? We could go on and on. So the idea that we've come up with is doing mobile testing. We have agencies such as IDOT, who they have projects in different areas of the state, right? And they're going to want to hire people in those particular regions. Well, we want to be able to do testing in that area so that they can hire people from that area. We want to do testing at things, job fairs. We want to be able to actually show up, and rather than just pass out a bunch of literature, we want to actually do something that people can have some sense of hope, and that, again, it's not just lip service. Now, I want to be clear, when we talk about employment, all of us understand the employment issues that this country is facing. But again, if there are opportunities and that there's a slight chance that a person can get a job with the state of Illinois, we want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable about testing and getting an opportunity to get a crack at that job. Now, we know that we have exams that some of them may be outdated or not. We want to update some of our exams. We have already started talking about our personnel code. Do there need to be changes there? Is everything that we're doing today, is it relevant to today? Some of these tests and some of these processes are 20, 30 years old, maybe even older than that. So we know that the times have changed. We know that the makeup of this state, right, has changed. So we feel that our processes and our testing needs to change with that. So those are things we're working on now. That takes a little bit more time. We have to be, we want to do it right. But we want you all to know that that's what we're committed to doing. And again, we want feedback. We have a new deputy director of personnel, Israel Salazar, and again, we're going to get into all of this, introducing everyone. But he's new, lots of energy. I'm an energy person, and he really wants to do a good job. And I think that is probably the best place to start in this particular area. So I'm looking forward to that. But we also know that 90% of the state's workforce is union. So there are rules about how you fill union positions. There are rules on how people become employed into a union spot, and we have to follow those. We have a contract. So one of the things we are looking forward to doing in our upcoming negotiation with all these different union contracts is treating it like a normal contract, in the sense that got to have a participation goal, at least a goal, right? We know that, again, there are people that have been in the unions long, right? They've had their jobs 20, some people going on 30 years. So we know that process is older, and we want to have a more updated process, right? We're not trying to say anything about we don't want those people to be in the union. What we're saying is we want the union to be, because it is basically our workforce, 95%, right? So it is the face of our workforce, but we want them to have diverse practices too. So that's what we're implementing. That's the stuff that we're working on. That's the stuff that we're doing right now at CMS. So what can you expect, right? What can you expect after hearing all of this and listening to this guy with this bum leg? What can you expect? You can expect, if you're a small business, we're going to do workshops and trainings to show you how to be prepared for these bid opportunities, right? If you're a large business, we're going to show you how to be prepared for these bid opportunities. We're going to have these workshops. We're going to talk to you more about the procurement process. As there are changes, as there are new rules implemented, we want to make sure we report the news to you as soon as it happens, right? We also want to make sure that for small businesses that you expect to have forums like this, maybe not this big. Lord knows I would love to have this many people have to sit down and listen to me every day. But we won't be able to do that. We'll have to do it maybe once a month, maybe bigger events once or twice a year. But the point is, set up forums where we can have prime vendors meet with smaller vendors, so that they can cultivate real relationships. We can't tell people who to partner with. We don't want to tell people who to partner with. But we want there to be a way for you all to meet each other and to talk about things, because that helps us. That helps the state's economy in general. Again, the only opportunities, they're not only opportunities at the state that I want you all to think about, but even working with one another, even in the private sector. We just want to be an incubator for all of those types of relationships. Large businesses, what can you expect? Well, you can expect that we are going to try to help you connect with smaller businesses to meet your goals that you have on your contracts. You can expect that we will be there to help you if you're saying you're having a hard time meeting the goals. We'll help you meet the goals. We want to make sure that you meet the goals, because we also want to hold you accountable if you don't, because we're being held accountable if overall spend, we're not meeting the goals. So again, we want to work with you. We don't want to demonize anybody. It is not a crime to be in business and make a profit. We get that. We want everybody to be profitable. But again, BP, the BP Act, it's a law. We have to make sure that we are making our best efforts to meet these goals. And so you can expect that we will help you do that, and we will work with you if you're showing an effort. I'm sorry, I have to use the right term. My general counsel's here. A good faith effort. You make sure that you make a good faith effort, and we'll help you. Again, we don't want to demonize large businesses. We want you to be profitable. We want you to do business with us, but we also want you to consider our smaller vendors and the people that you need to work with in terms of fulfilling goals. Legislators, what can you expect from us? We want to make sure that you better understand, in terms of the procurement process, what's really happening on the ground. We feel like if we also provide if we're a better reference for you or a sounding board, it makes it easier for you to make tough decisions. I mean, some of this stuff is really hard and complicated, so we want to make sure that we provide to you all the most information possible to help you in whatever cause you're taking up, to make sure that you know what people are thinking and how it will affect the state. You know, what are we running into? So again, all of you can expect these things from us going forward. And so takeaways, right? So after all of this talk, what do I want you all to take away? We're going to focus on groups of or industries where we know we have a lot of diverse vendors, but yet we don't see their representation on contracts. We're going to focus on those areas, and we're going to focus to make sure that we can build those relationships. We're going to try it. We're going to do it with everyone, but we're really going to focus on the areas where we know in this state we have a lot of vendors, a lot of diverse vendors, but we don't see that representation in our contracts. We're going to focus on those areas. We're going to reach out to people. We're going to have accessibility meetings. This is basically me saying our door is open. So people have felt like they've been kind of closed out and not been able to come in and talk to, whether it be a director or some person in state government that is maybe the source of any particular procurement need, right? But some people feel like, I have this great idea, this great concept for the state, but no one will let me in. I got to know somebody to get in. Well, you do. You know CMS now. We want to invite everyone to come in. We're going to set aside a couple days a month where what we do, we're going to just have businesses come in. And we're going to talk to you about your ideas and whatnot. Now, we're not going to talk about specific procurements that are on the street. We're not going to do that. But we will talk about better ideas, right? We will talk about your access, getting you in, and just hearing what you have to say. Now, you know, there's a lot of people here, and I've been saying this at all the places that I've been speaking at. So, you know, again, my calendar is filling up, so please be patient. You know, we can't see everybody in 1 week, but we will see you all. If you make an appointment with us, I'm sure my assistant's here somewhere. She's going to be mad, but we'll get you in. Everybody gets in. That's what the governor said. Nobody left out. So we're going to set aside time for that. So I want you all to feel comfortable about calling us up when you have questions. And last but not least, and I said this before, but I have to reiterate it. We're serious about the goals. We're serious about the goals. We're serious about the contracts that exist with no goals right now, that we want to put goals on, but we're even more serious about the contracts that have goals, and those goals are not being met. Now, I want to say it one more time, because the Business Enterprise Advisory Council, Business Enterprise Program Advisory Council, we work with them closely. But we're going to look at contracts where there are goals that are not being met, and we have to consider if those businesses don't want to work with us to actually meet those goals, we have to consider canceling those contracts and rebidding. Now, that's serious, but I want to make sure people understand that we have to consider, because we're not following the law. All right, so it's not just a matter of, you know, we're playing a bully, but it's the law, right? If you put in on a bid document and a utilization plan, this is what you're going to do, you have to make a real effort, a good faith effort to meet those goals. And if you're not doing that, there's probably another vendor who is willing, right, to do it, and we have to consider that so that we can meet the requirements of the statute, of the law. So again, I want everybody to understand that we're very serious about that. And again, we're not looking to cancel people's contracts through the door. We'll talk to you about it, and you can tell us what the issue is, but make no mistake, we are very serious about this part of the law that we feel has not had enough attention in the past. So without that, I'm hoping not to sound too ominous, but I do want to make sure that everyone understands that. Thank you very much for your time. This has been something that we've been very excited about at CMS. We're really looking forward to working with all of you. We're really looking forward to increasing our participation goals. You know, we're hoping that this can be something that we do on a regular basis, and that you all find some value with it. I hope that you found some value with what I've said, because my leg really hurts and I've been sitting up here, so I hope it was worth it. But in all seriousness, again, this is our mission. This is something that we take serious. So again, I'd like to thank you for hearing me out.